If you're running paid traffic and your leads fucking suck, I'm going to fix that for you in this video. So if you've got a call funnel, VSL funnel, application funnel, low ticket funnel, doesn't matter, whatever kind of funnel it is, if you keep getting leads where you're like, why are these people coming through my funnel? And you've tried the standard ad framework where it's like, if you're this type of person and you have this problem, you're struggling with X and you want Y, you should check out my thing because it's amazing and will help you. And despite the ad frameworks, despite following the traditional stuff, you're still getting really weird leads and people that are just not actually your ideal target market and your true ideal client. Again, in this video, I'm going to fix that for you. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Sebastian Robeck. I have worked as a CMO for some of the biggest brands in the online coaching and consulting space, including brands like Traffic and Funnels and Closers.io, run by Cole Gordon. I've run several 7, 8, and even 9-figure marketing departments. And here on the channel, I am downloading everything I know about running high-octane marketing teams and extremely well-oiled marketing machines into you and your business. If you're a business owner with an in-house marketing team, hit the link in the description if you want help optimizing your team's performance and turning them into A players. If you're a marketer, there's some cool stuff for you in the description as well. Without further ado, let's get into something I call splinter markets. So guys, this is going to 100% change the game for you again if you're running cold traffic. And this is what I call how to scale cold traffic using these splinter markets. And again, this is how you're going to print A+ leads. So let's zoom in here, make sure you guys can see everything front and center. So the essential thing you guys need to understand here is the whole premise of this training I'm about to share is predicated on the fact that what most people are teaching in how to run traffic for an online business of any kind is you have these very bland vanilla ad frameworks where it's like, if you're a roofing business and you're tired of low paying leads and you want more customers, blank, 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 right? It's like, guys, that shit doesn't work. All right. And it doesn't scale, more importantly. I'm talking about scaling here and growing and scaling your advertising consistently, profitably over several years, not just for 2-3 months at a time. And the premise here of this, guys, is that if your ads are speaking to everyone, you're scaling nothing. That's the problem with everything I'm seeing in the market right now is in any given niche, most people are running ads speaking to the entirety of that market as opposed to going sniper direct to segments of the market, which is what we're going to talk about here. And again, to emphasize why this is so important, scaling cold traffic does not work if your message is too general. I know this because I have literally been on the inside of 8- and 9-figure companies managing multi-7-figure a month ad budgets. Okay, so everything I'm sharing with you guys here on the channel comes directly from my personal lived experience, not theory, not courses I've taken. You're scaling your cold traffic is not going to work if your message is too general, if you're speaking to everyone, okay? Any market, doesn't matter what the market is, unless it's some really weird shit that like just popped up a year ago, no one knows about, and you've got first to market, the first to market advantage, in which case, sure, go broad in a very unknown market where you have that, but most markets are not in that stage. And if you're in a somewhat of a normal market, finance, wealth, relationships, health, doesn't matter, your market is likely very saturated and going general is just way too expensive. So I coined this term. I can't say I made it up. I'm sure it's out there somewhere, but it just came to me a couple of weeks ago, actually. And it's something I've done with every single client of mine I worked with that absolutely crushes, which is using what I call these splinter markets. So I call them splinter markets because if you take a general market, let's just say the dating niche, right? Let's just say men who want to improve their dating life, right? They want better women in their lives. That's a massive market, right? And so you can take that massive pie and you can splinter that market off into so many different micro segments of that larger audience. And each of those micro segments, as I've said here, is going to have their own unique set of pain points, language, emotional trigger points, ways in which they're going to resonate and ways in which you need to speak to them. And so instead of having a generic ad that we think is going to work because it's capturing the entire market and saying, if you're a successful man wanting to date their dream woman, check this out, right? And you're tired of swiping on the apps, check this out. Instead of doing that, which again is what most people are going to tell you to do, and most businesses or marketing teams or media buyers believe is the right way to do it and how it's going to work, because it's understandable. It used to work really well, but stuff's becoming more competitive. Markets are becoming more saturated. And the important part about that is markets are becoming burnt out on the same messaging. Okay. And so if you continue to hit them with the same fucking message, you're just going to get banner blindness. People are just not even going to pay attention to your ads. So instead of doing that, what we do with these splinter markets is we laser target these like very peculiar slices of a given market with very, very resonant copy. So that is the key difference here. And you guys are going to see this here in a second as we go deeper. But the resonant copy piece, the deeply resonant copy piece, is probably the most crucial part about this. So again, as a reminder, what is a splinter market? A splinter market is what I call a subgroup of your broader audience that shares a specific problem, job role, potentially. They have a specific psychographic profile, specific context of where they're at in their lives. And what I really want to drill into you guys here, and this has been a game changer for my clients, is it's not about the demographics. So when people think, what's my ideal avatar? Well, it's a guy making 200 grand a year with a business, and he's 35 years old, whatever. That's demographic, okay? The kind of the traits on paper. What you really want to go after is, what is a psychographic profile of your ideal person? So what is their specific pain and the specific scenario that they're encountering right now in their lives? So here's a very, very obvious and clear example. Let's say your main market is successful men struggling with dating. A couple of splinter angles are, you can go after engineers working 80-hour work weeks who want someone to fall asleep next to. You can go after divorced dads over 40 who are back on the apps for the first time since 2011. Okay, that's another option. You can go after sort of like finance bros who feel confident at work but socially invisible at the bar. Very, very specific situation. Okay, so I've left a handful of other splinter market examples here. We've got a health and fitness example, business and marketing examples that I've created for you guys, and also a specific finance market set of splinter markets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the link to this Google Doc in the description of this video. So if you do want to dive into these examples and just dive into this training even more, you can do that by clicking on the link for this document. So I'm not going to go over all these in the video for the sake of time. Now, again, here's where businesses and marketers get it wrong, right? So you go after, they go after like the very, very surface level avatar targeting. So my ideal avatar is entrepreneurs making 150 grand a year. Well, good luck, because that's a lot of people, okay? And you're going to get a whole lot of people within that massive bucket. That's why you're likely getting so many different people coming through your funnel, and you have no consistency in your lead quality, which has a massive trickle-down effect, as you know, into your downstream cost to acquire a client, the P&L, the net profitability of your marketing relative to all your other expenses. I don't need to go into all that. I know you know this, right? And so this has a massive downstream effect. It's not just, oh, my lead quality is good. It makes a huge difference. And a lot of businesses are just writing this very generic messaging because they're afraid of excluding people. They're like, well, I don't want to exclude people in my marketing, so I'm going to just write this generic stuff. But ironically, by doing that, you actually exclude the right people. Most businesses and marketers just don't realize that that's happening, because when you're general, you're forgettable. And when you're specific, you are relatable. And when you're relatable, you're going to have a much easier time compelling someone to take an action that you want them to take and to interact with you. Okay. So now that you understand the premise of this and the importance of this and what happens when you implement this, let's talk about how to start to do this, right? So the first step is you need to learn how to identify your splinter markets. Like, where do you find them, right? So in my experience, there's a few ways you can audit your current buyer lists. So you can go through your high ticket client list, your low ticket client list. You can look through essentially anyone who's given you money. Start there. And what you want to do is you literally just want to have conversations with these people. And I'll get into that more in a second. You can also look at call recordings, DM conversation messages, even customer surveys if you've done any. You can also look at forums. Forums are really, really good places. Like for a lot of markets, you can find some really good gold mines here. So for example, we take the general health market, or even more specifically, the detox market. Within the detox market, there's so many splinter markets. You got people struggling with SIBO, right, which is a gut thing. You got people struggling with PCOS, women specifically, obviously, right? That's a whole submarket that is massively underserved. You've got things like mold, right? Mold, I guess poisoning / mold illness, if you will. You've got histamine issues. There's so many micro markets within the detox and biohacking and holistic healing world. And you can find a lot of really cool stuff first for markets like those on Reddit. Same thing with almost any other market. You're going to find sub-markets and splinter markets just through looking at forums. Now, again, in my experience, this right here is the best place to start. I'm going to highlight this bad boy so you guys know. Auditing your current buyers. Just go talk to your customers, guys. It's not that complicated. Just talk to your customers. You're going to have an easier time getting this information and finding out specifically what people are struggling with and don't necessarily want to say with your current buyers than you will even by analyzing your sales call recordings. Because people don't always necessarily tell you everything on a sales call. They might tell you enough just to keep the thing going. And they might actually end up becoming a paying client, but that still doesn't mean they've told you everything. And so there's literally gold sitting in your business right now if you just know where to look. Go have conversations with your market and start to notice the common themes. What are consistent problems that come up? Consistent language choices. What words are people using? What emotions are people feeling? Get them to open up. Be genuinely curious and ask them about what their situation was like before they came to work with you. And it could even be recent paying clients on your onboarding calls, right? Just find these things out and get curious about their visceral experience, right? Because that leads perfectly into the next step, which is how to write your ad copy or ad copy via sell copy, funnel copy, whatever it is, your messaging, what you're putting out into the market, into these splinter markets is all going to be predicated on your research. That's why the research, honestly, is probably the most important part. The writing to that market is still important. It's obviously necessary, but it's a hell of a lot easier when you do the groundwork and you do the foundational research first. So the way you want to write to these splinter markets, it's going to be an adjustment because you're likely used to writing your ad copy or your VSL copy or whatever it is in a very specific way, which is the way that the marketing world has probably taught you, right? Which is like very simple, structured. If you're this, boom, 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 like I laid out before. That shit ain't going to work here. So it's going to be an adjustment because what you're going to be doing is you're going to write like you're writing to that one specific person. So let's say it's the single divorced dad with 2 kids who is in a long-term relationship and a long-term marriage and is rebuilding his dating life. Well, that's a fucking very specific person. That's a hell of a lot different than the 35-year-old finance guy working on Wall Street who crushes it on the charts or whatever, but secretly feels this gaping hole in his chest because he is tired of short-term flings and wants a real long-lasting relationship. 2 totally different markets. 2 totally, like those 2 guys wake up feeling completely different feelings. They have different visceral experiences. So you need to write to those 2 people individually. So you need to use their pain, their story, their reality. You need to really be able to paint the picture of their current experience, i.e. their pain and their current reality, and paint the picture of what their vision is and what their life could actually really look like with visceral detail. You need to describe these things so well. And that's why I said here, you need to use texture, because if you use cliche language, guys, you're just going to blend in. I'm telling you. So when you start to do this, what's going to happen as I lay out right here, and sorry, before I continue, the most important thing here is that you need to show them that you understand them potentially better than they understand themselves. Now, what this doesn't mean is that we're saying they have no power and we're taking away their power and autonomy and putting it in our hands. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is you're telling this person, I see you. I see you and I get you and I feel you. Here's a path forward. Okay. But you don't show someone, you don't demonstrate to someone that I see you, or that you see them by telling them you see them. You demonstrate that you see and understand them by describing in visceral detail that only somebody who has done the research to understand that situation or has lived it can describe, right? So only one of those 2 ways can you get there. And if you haven't lived it, then you talk to your clients, right? So here's what happens when you implement this. Obviously, you get lower CPL, but sometimes, and I put this asterisk in here. Sometimes your front end metrics, and this is why this is kind of a mind fuck, to be honest, for a lot of people, both marketers, business owners, media buyers alike, is that sometimes when you do this, often actually, you will see your front end metrics rise in cost. So you'll have higher lead costs, higher cost per booked call. If you're running a low ticket, you'll probably have a higher front end CPA. And so everything is going to look like it's worse on paper. However, what you need to do is be patient and give these campaigns time that you launch that are speaking directly to these micro splinter markets. Because in my experience, when given enough time, especially when you take into account sales cycle, obviously if you're selling high ticket, it particularly applies to you. When given enough time, you will see higher front end metrics and higher front end costs, but your net profitability and your net CPA will typically be lower. Okay. So originally things will look higher, give it time, and it will look lower. Okay. Especially with the ad platforms, when you give it enough time for your pixel to optimize around those specific demographics and psychographics that you're targeting. Give it enough time to find those people. It doesn't take very long depending on what you're spending. It gets better. Okay. You're going to definitely get higher lead quality. I promise you that. That is 100% certain. You want higher lead quality, guys, do this. You're going to get a lot more people going, damn, this was me. You're speaking directly to me. You're going to get these in the comments. You're going to get people showing up to sales calls being like, man, like I saw the ad and it was just like, I felt like you spoke directly to me. You're going to get that a lot more often. Okay. Most importantly, guys, your ads are going to stop feeling like ads. And this is the problem. This is the problem with how most businesses and marketing teams are operating right now in the current landscape is everyone's in a mastermind going, what's the guy or the gal that's running the mastermind doing that's working? Okay, let me copy them. And so then everyone else does it. And so then everyone else starts to look the same, which is exactly what's happening here. I get passionate about this stuff, guys, because I fucking love it. It's what I do every single day. And I want you to win. I want you guys that are watching this to go out and crush it and get such outsized results and outsized returns on your ad dollars that people start asking you, what the fuck are you doing? Okay. And so the way you do that is by not doing what everyone else is doing. And so when you follow what I've laid out here in this video, your ads are going to stop feeling like ads instead of someone going, scrolling through, right? They're going to start feeling like mirrors. They're going to start feeling like these deeply resonant potentially life-altering moments for people. And that's what you're going for. Now, that doesn't mean you need to be cheesy in your ads and get all hyper emotional or whatever. You can do this in a really light-hearted, even potentially injecting humor, and you could do it in those ways. It's just about the specificity and being able to speak directly to your psychographic, your micro splinter market. Now, here's some bonus for you guys. This is where it gets crazy. This is where it gets fucking crazy. Okay. I've done this for a bunch of clients, and I would say it works 80 to 90% of the time, right? This does not have a 100% hit rate because nothing in this game does. But it has a pretty fucking high hit rate. So I highly recommend you test it out. Once you've done everything I've laid out here, once you've identified a handful of splinter markets, let's say you got 3 to 5, right? And you've got some ads speaking directly to those people using your original funnel with like some control ad copy. So you're not, you're keeping your variables relatively low. And you've got some proof of concept on a few of your splinter markets. Now you have these 3 to 5 larger angles, right? So let's say it's the dad, like the dad example I mentioned earlier, the recently divorced dad, and then you've got the finance guy on Wall Street, both of which who want a long-term relationship but are in 2 different situations and do want slightly different things. So you've got those angles, right? Then what you do is when you find those winners, you take the next level by building out full front to back funnels, landing pages, VSLs, full marketing material briefs for each of those micro segments. So now instead of running, you've got your like 3 to 5 splinter market ads right here, boom, 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 all routing to the same original control VSL funnel, right? Which obviously is the way to start, and it still works well. But the way you scale it up is you then go, okay, cool. This micro segment over here worked. I'm going to go boom, build a whole funnel. So ad creatives, VSL funnel, thank you page, pre-call material, pre-call emails, everything top to bottom, just dedicated to that micro segment of the market. Okay. Then you're going to go and do the same with 3 to 4 others. So then what happens is now your growth, your lead generation growth, your business growth, and your scaling of your ads growth becomes horizontal, not just vertical. So instead of saying, oh, I've got my winning campaign, I'm just going to pump the budget 20% every 3 days in the ad account, and that's all we're going to do. Now you're instead of just like brute forcing it and just scaling more or spending more and just scaling what you have, which does work up to a point. But if you're watching this, it's probably because you've already tried that and you're hitting walls. Instead of just continuing to try and do that and just run your campaigns or run your funnels into the ground before the market says, I don't want this shit anymore, and you get diminishing returns, instead of wasting the time and money and energy and stress to get there, you scale smarter by going horizontal. So you've got these different segments of the market that you're running ads to. So, oops, guys, I promise you, when you do this, you unlock a whole level of growth in your business because you're going to have more profitable advertising. You're going to have better quality leads. You're going to have better quality clients. Your sales team is going to be way, way, way happier. Your sales team is going to stick around for a longer period of time, and you won't have a revolving door of salespeople. You won't have a revolving door of client success managers because you have these massive spikes and waves in your client acquisition. Your entire business truly can benefit in such a multitude of ways when you get this front end advertising piece correct. And it's not just about how do I make more, fun ads or whatever. It's about being very methodical and systematic about the way in which you do this. Okay. And obviously you need creativity in all this. That's a huge piece of it, but you need the creativity within a structure. And this, I'm hoping this structure is something you guys can start to plug into. So if you found this helpful, let me know. I hope so. More videos to come just like this. Again, if you are a business owner, either running your own marketing, or if you've got an in-house marketing team and you'd like to take them from C to B players and you want them to become absolute fucking A players, and you want the former CMO of some really, really big companies to come in and personally train your in-house marketing team, let me know. You can go ahead and click the link down in the description, just book a call, and I'm happy to do a team performance audit. If you are a marketer or media buyer, copywriter looking to level up and really create a long-lasting career in this marketing game for yourself, there's also some cool stuff in the description for you. With that said, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Hope you enjoyed this. And most of all, I hope you go out and implement this because I promise you, you will see fantastic results in your advertising. See you guys soon. Peace.